Perkins-Rawle, founder of Harry Barker. Welcome to Big Idea.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we thought you were a great way to start our show because tonight's show, as we just said, is all about if you got a little doggy, a cat, a goldfish, or something. There's millions of dollars in those animals. You just got to kind of spot it. Yeah. Your story is also one of inspiration and comeback, and it's an amazing one. Let's start out with the glory days. Take me through life as a high-flying model. I mean, what was life like? You were Victoria's Secret model. You were in your 20s. You're on top of the world. Yeah. What was it like then?
It's an amazing profession, especially for a woman, single. It was such a gift to travel the world, to work with the top professionals in the industry, designers, photographers, editors, meet with, I'm not sure if I ever worked with your agency, but I got to work with the most brilliant art directors, writers. It was just, and I learned so much in that environment that all those skills are transferable. So whatever career I was in my past, I'm not my job, but I certainly took with all of the knowledge that I gained and experienced and use it today on a daily basis.
That's what people don't realize, that you can switch and do different things, and that 2 or that 4 or that 7, 11 years is not wasted. That goes into the kind of core competency belt, and you can use that in other things. So even something as disparate as a model versus somebody who's owning a pet product company, a lot of lessons learned there.
I actually segued from modeling into fire eating. Not many models do that.
Whoa. You went and you Penn and Teller fire eating. How did you go from modeling into fire eating?
It was just a natural transformation. I was a little too old for modeling at the old age of 30. They were, giving me the boot at Ford. They put you out to pasture in those days. So I met Penn and Teller, and they asked me to perform for them on Broadway, and I learned to fire eat, and I did that 8 shows a week, and traveled with them for about 5 years.
So you're still living this glamorous, sexy life.
Yes.
All of a sudden, though, physically, you start to notice some things.
Yes, I did. Penn and Teller moved. They relocated to Las Vegas, and I stayed on in Manhattan, and I had these very bizarre symptoms. I gained about 60 pounds gradually over about an 18-month period, and I had developed a brain tumor. And it had been misdiagnosed. I went to several different doctors and specialists because of many symptoms, and it remained unnoticed by them. I mean, they just couldn't figure out what it was, so.
But you had all these other bizarre symptoms.
Yes, I gained.
Tell me some of the other symptoms.
Well, it's Cushing's disease, which is a rare disease, but anyone that's ever had it, it's, besides the massive weight gain, I developed what's called moon face and buffalo hump. Sounds attractive.
And chest hair? Or
oh, yes, hair in all the wrong places, and hair where it was supposed to be and fell out.
Wow. And that was just honest, nothing different?
That's the model on the left, and that's me with Cushing's disease, as you can see, and it's mostly steroid fluids from the pituitary gland.
And they couldn't figure out what was going on, they couldn't figure out, and then finally, a Chinese acupuncturist.
Yeah. I tried traditional Western medicine and fancy doctors on Park Avenue, major, household name doctors, and no one knew what was wrong with me. So someone suggested so I went to Chinese medicine doctor who does acupuncture, and they diagnosed me in Chinese medicine, and they translated it into the Merck medical manual and said, I think you have Cushing's disease. Go to an emergency room immediately. So I went to another doctor in New York who specialized just in general care, and they literally diagnosed me in the waiting room. They looked at me and they went, oh my God, we've got a Cushionoid. They got all excited because I was such a ripe specimen because it
really manifested itself.
Oh, yeah. I was a beauty. Wow. I was really quite attractive.
So you go in for emergency surgery?
Yes, and within 2 weeks. I mean, they literally had given me about a month to live. Had this doctor not caught it in time, I wouldn't be here telling you my story.
Well, thank God that you are.
Crazy.
And you wake up after the surgery and you have kind of a brain surge, no pun intended.
I did. I came up and while I was homebound with this illness and unemployable and living in Manhattan, I became very popular with all the pet owners in my building because here was this lady upstairs, I had my little sewing machine, and I was very crafty and still am, and I love to sew and cook and things. So I became my loft building's resident pet sitter. So folks would go away for weeks at a time and leave their dogs, pugs, Jack Russells, cats. I had every kind of animal you can imagine.
That was quite I don't want to say a come down, but a transition from being the model and the fire eater on stage to being the overweight woman at home taking care of other people's pets and
yes, things. Yeah. It was a pretty dark. It was a very bizarre part of I felt trapped inside of a body that wasn't mine. And besides the physical symptoms, Cushing's also does quite a number on your mental condition as well.
Imagine.
But the pet sitting really, it soothed my soul, and there was something really rewarding and comforting about pet therapy. I literally had these little critters running around. I was quite happy, you know, fat and overweight, and I had company. They didn't care that I had a beard and, you know, whatever.
Sure.
You know,
They don't care.
They don't care.
Okay, so here you're possibly facing death. What's going on in your head at that point?
Well, besides a massive brain tumor, it was the darkest moment of my life. You know, I'd been at the height of my career as a model, on fire eating on Broadway, People magazine. I mean, you know, the world was at my fingertips, and suddenly, you know, it was just a downward spiral, and it got darker and darker and darker, and I couldn't even get a blind date. I mean, I was homebound. I was a shut-in and homebound with this massive tumor growing, and it was
At that point, do you feel sorry for yourself? Do you say, I'm going to beat it? Do you, what's the, I mean, take me in your home. Take me, you know, on a Tuesday night, you're sitting at home with the pets, your body is completely betraying you. You went from the top of the world to basically a shut-in. What was going on a Tuesday night in your house?
Well, I probably had some dog biscuits in the oven. I just finished knitting a dog sweater. I had the sewing, my dueling sewing machines on my kitchen table. I was crafting. I was in my element. There's something really humbling about making something with your hands. I don't know if you garden or do anything, but it puts you in that space of mind that it's very relaxing. And I think that really kept me sane between the love of and the companionship of these pets and making products that gave me pleasure, and I could give them as gifts to, you know, my friends. So it was dark. I mean, sorry, no, it's a real contradiction, but I was trapped inside of this ginormous cushionoid body, but I had so much love. My loft was buzzing. People couldn't wait to come by and say, oh, what'd you make today? And there was such a lack of product on the market. And so I went out looking for products to buy as gifts, and there was really not what I was looking for out there. So I decided to make beds and pillows and throws, and one of the first product I made was a doggy bathrobe.
Take me, you said though that there was a moment of inspiration. You literally, when you were recovering from the surgery, you kind of had this vision of a business.
I did. As soon as I woke up in the OR, and I suddenly saw the logo, the name came to everything. It all fell into place. I thought, this is what I'm going to do, because I remember how I was reminded of how comforting and loved and nurtured I felt by having these pets, and how much value it had added to my dark life at the time. So I thought, why not move forward? It's a new beginning. It's a new day. I'm going to get well. I'm fully recovered, and that's what launched the business. Of course, then I had to figure out how to get the financing, write the business plan, find manufacturers. Then the fun really began.
So how did you learn how to do that? You were a model, and you had been in entertainment. You had no experience there.
None.
You're coming off this kind of dreaded disease.
None.
How'd you figure that all out?
None. I found mentors. I found and unfortunately, there weren't shows like yours on the air 10 years ago. There was really very little out there. So I did a lot of research. I asked a lot of people for help, and I found that people really like helping those who take their advice and listen to it. So
Makes people feel, but when somebody comes to me I feel so smart.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how to do it. So that's a great lesson for folks out there. Just ask people. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Find mentors.
Yeah.
Reach out. I ordered the Thomas Register. I don't know if you know what that is. That's that big manual of manufacturers.
Sure.
This is before the internet really took off, before you could source, before search engines. So I did it the old-fashioned way. I went to libraries, went to trade shows. I took the right steps in learning how to manufacture.
How'd you raise the money?
I couldn't raise money. This is 12 years ago. Yeah. Nobody wants, like, pet, are you kidding? That's for people in Beverly Hills. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, this is going to be huge. So couldn't find investors, so I sold my loft, emptied my pension fund. Sorry, Dad, I had to do it. But I put $1 million. I put $1 million cash into my company. I financed it myself. Now I've got